Hello, Champagners, and welcome back to season 3 of the Champagne Rugby podcast. I hope that Christmas treated you well and that you had a happy new year and Santa brought you lots of presents. And to kick off season 3, we have a very special guest on the podcast and owner of One versus One Rugby, ex-professional rugby player, Freddy Ngoza. Frederick, how are you doing?
Thank you, Hamish. I'm well. Thank you, brother man. Good to be back, and compliments to the new year, to the Champagne followers, and also to the Phoenix Army that is joining. Compliments to the new year, and let's make 24 a great one for us.
For those of you that didn't listen to season 1, we actually had Freddie on for season 1, and he's one of the few guests that's coming on for the second round. So for the new listeners, Freddie, just give them a quick introduction of yourself and what you've been up to.
I'm Freddy Ngoza, originally from Mpumalanga in South Africa, a small town. I think we'll get to that story sometime later. But I've had the fortune of playing rugby as a profession, and it was my profession and my job for a long time. And I'm in a place now where the passion for the game after I retired, I found a continuation plan for me within the game, and that's what one-on-one and my coaching career now has brought through the love of the game and through playing the game in different markets in the world. So yeah, that's who I.
So for those that don't know what One versus One Rugby is, would you just be able to give a quick summary of what One versus One Rugby is and sort of how it started and just a quick update on all the rules of the game?
Okay, so One versus One Rugby is an idea I picked up in Poland. I started designing it towards the prospects that I saw, the relation to professional rugby that I saw within the game. And I designed it to be the ultimate test of individual rugby skills in attack and defense, simulating the spaces and the mismatches and matches that happen in 15-man rugby. So the rules are quite simple. There's no continuation of play. So the ball starts with possession of the ball, and rotation of possession is per rep that we play. Okay, so it starts with a tap kick. The tap kick is a addition that started in this year, in 23 season, because we then looked at bringing the game closer more to what necessary skills you have to have as a rugby player on the field. And the situation of a tap kick also happens on a continuous basis. When you are in possession of the ball, it doesn't necessarily have to go to the 9 if we are chasing the tempo. The prop must also have the necessary skills, I believe, to do that tap kick, move forward, shift the ball, and that's how the introduction of the tap kick came into one-on-one. So yeah, the most difficult part of one versus one is the defensive side, because you are forever reactive to the tap kick, because you're supposed to stay your 2.5 or sideline behind your offside line, and you run as soon as the tap kick is made. You are allowed to close your space. So the defensive discipline of the game is the most difficult aspect of the game, according to my perspective, because you are forever reactive to what the ball carrier is doing. He has the determining factor of when he wants to take that tap kick. I just blow my whistle, and then he can take his time. If he wants to slow the game down, catch you off guard, that's also part of the strategy of the game. So it's about simulating 15-man or rugby union play within the perspective of one man on one man.
And how big is the pitch?
That I cannot disclose right now, Adam, because Hamish, because of the legalities of the product, yeah. Because we are trying to take it to international markets. We have the patent in South Africa, and because of those restrictions of our legalities and getting our necessary things in place for us to be broadening the product to the global market is where the franchising structure that we have now started comes into place. So that is intellectual property that will be shared with the franchisees once we have the necessary legalities in place in those markets, and then to take the product further. Yeah.
And how many events have you had over the last year?
Over last year, we had six events. We're finishing with Cape Town 10s now. So the Cape Town 10s events will be the last event of the series. We were actually going to try and do the contender series, which is the SA finals at the Cape Town 10s, but we decided that it is best to also give the Cape Town market an opportunity to play and qualify to be able to go to the SA final.
So we've had essentially 6 tournaments, and then the winners of all these tournaments will come up one against each other for the grand final of the South Africa, and someone will be declared the South African champion of 1 versus 1.
So that's the thing. So we actually, in the future, I would like it to be a engagement thing. So right now we're going to choose 2 of the best prospects out of the winners. So we have 6 winners in each weight class. However, we're going to choose the top 2 that we are then going to bring in, because the contender series is our combined system for one-on-one. So we want more information about these guys. So now the whole reason why it's set up like this, Hamish, is because we are looking to develop the youth, yes, but we need to filter a large number. Like we've filtered 750 players now through one-on-one. 450 that played, but we also have access to the ones that registered to play, for some reason didn't manage to come and play. So we are creating a database of looking for talent, and then trying to develop that talent. That means you need testing on the guys. You need to know where they stand, but you cannot do that for 450, you know. That's why we're trying to limit it to the winners that we have already won and we see talent in, and then we need to do testing on those guys. We need to have their Bronco times. We need to have their bench press, rep maxes. And then we are able to say, okay, you are in a position that you need to be stronger, and then you would be placing yourself in contention to be in professional rugby. So that's the ultimate goal for us in the South African market, is we're trying to use or utilize the 1 versus 1 as a filter system that we are then able to try and push guys into professional setups through development 1 versus 1.
It's actually quite a really good model that you've built up there, and a great way of filtering players that might have missed a chance to play sort of Super Rugby or Currie Cup, and now they've got that second chance to get their name out there through 1 versus 1.
100%. The idea of it is to be able, we have an abundance of talent, and I see that everywhere I go. Hamish, some of the guys that win in 1 versus 1 have never played Grand Como, have never played Craven Week in our systems. Those are the youth milestones that you need, or that unions look at, you know. And I was fortunate enough that I played Craven Week, and that's the only reason that made me eligible to give me the shots that I had while I was playing rugby, you know. So when I was looking at the market after COVID, I was coaching the under 20s, and then I realized, you know, there's a massive gap for our junior system in South Africa, and a lot of talent that is really keen to play the game, and I think has potential to play the game. And that's where one-on-one also really related to what was happening in the market, and I saw it as a tool that can be utilized to fill that gap.
And have you had any of the players go on and sign contracts since coming through the system?
I have one Lucy that is by me at the Leopards. He's in his second season with us now. We discovered him through 1 versus 1, and I have a few really good prospects for youngsters. That's the most important. I'm trying to get the 21-year-olds, the 22-year-olds, that you can still invest, 2 years, 3 years in, and then you are still under 25. And I think if you are able to be under 25 and you're a polished product, I think the opportunities are there. The development of rugby in general, I think, is there.
It's honestly, yeah, an incredible model that I think has a lot of potential to grow, not just in South Africa but across the scene. But talking of South
Yes.
Africa, we obviously had 2023 was quite a big year for the Boks, with South Africa winning the World Cup by 1 point, may I add, but still a win is a win.
A win is a win.
And I imagine the scenes were crazy over in South Africa. How did you guys celebrate?
I think it was a massive stamp in the market to be the best in the world again. And I think it's something that the team really worked hard for, and they had to dig deep to be able to make it happen. So for that, you have to give credit, and the reception of it in South Africa, of course, was massive. I heard one guy comment that it's gonna be October, December. So they went on December holiday already, from the World Cup win. So yeah, it was for the development model in South Africa. I think it's an awesome thing because it just says there's no better time to invest in rugby than now. And this is one thing I think the opportunity of one versus one is also there for. And I think it just grew the interest in the market, and the you can see how it relates to the tens events that we go to, and the small events that are popping up, people playing more and more rugby. And so that's from a coaching perspective and from a rugby lover's perspective. I'm awesomely glad for the World Cup win, and I think it was an awesome thing for our market, Jace.
One of my favourite aspects of the 2023 Rugby World Cup with relation to South Africa, the winners, was the
Yes.
Rassie Erasmus tactics. Those tactics that he employed. That we first of all, we had the bomb squad. Then we had
Yes.
the nuclear bomb squad, which was seven
Yes.
forwards and one back.
Seven.
And then
Yes.
I was waiting for round three of the knockout punch of the atomic bomb squad, having 8
Yeah.
forwards and 0 backs. But then I realised Rassie just pulled another trick card out, and he bloody signs he places 4 scrum halves in the same matchday squad. Two
Yeah.
two on the
No.
bench and two on the one on the wing and one at scrum half. And then to top it all off, we're doing a bit of a disco. We've got the disco lights, communicating
Yeah.
with the players, confusing all the teams.
It's
He's bopping.
it's
He's popping.
I
It's
think
Rassie.
it's really it's Rassie Erasmus, Hamish. I think he has a great way of working with his players. He has his own ways of communicating, his own ways of thinking about the game. And I think also, like, it comes down to quality. If you have the quality of players, you can make those type of decisions as a coach. And like the big calls that he made in game, swapping, major players were to change the dynamics of the game. I think his tactics obviously worked. I think he came into the World Cup with a plan, and I think he's also now already looking to the next one with a plan. That's why he's stepping in as coach now. So I think, yeah, Rassie is doing his thing, and like I say, in South Africa, the amount of quality rugby players that especially our highest levels has, it's you can choose from the best, and then from there on, the tactics. When you put the tactics together and you put the communication together, you are ultimately looking at success, and that's what they got out of the World Cup, Hamish.
And what do you think the future of South African rugby looks like over the next 4-year cycle?
I personally think so. We obviously have a couple of more mature players, let's say it, that are looking probably at the last World Cups. So I think a couple of them are going to be managed to be able to mix in the next World Cup. And then, yeah, we have to look at some development in the system also, especially by the Springboks, I think. But we also have enough junior quality that's coming through the ranks, I think, for so it's not just about giving the right guys the opportunity to play and getting the caps up and getting the experience up while we're resting the other guys. And then we try and mix in the next World Cup again, yeah, of course.
Do you think
The three-peat.
The three-peat, it never been done before. Do you
Never
think?
been done.
No, it'll be a historic moment if it does happen, and I'm very hopeful to be at the next World Cup final. So let's see how
Yeah,
that
we
goes.
definitely have to be. We'll be there, Hamish.
Australia, 2027. Here we come.
Yeah.
The next thing I wanted to talk about is building on from that South African rugby. There's a lot of players right now, such as Cheslin Colby, Ebenet Sabeth, Andre Pollard, a lot of the big names, Peter Steph du Toit, that have gone over and are
In Japan.
playing rugby overseas in Japan, England, and France. How is this going to affect the sort of future of South African rugby? And do you think it's damaging the
I don't
game or it's helping them?
Not necessarily, Hamish. I think it's creating opportunities for other juniors to come and play in the franchises in South African rugby. I think, and also I like the fact that you are able to travel and see different markets and experience different markets. I think it adds to experience. And that's what, so our more senior players, I don't mind. I think it's a good thing that they play overseas, because they're still eligible for us to play. And then for the junior markets, it's good that we are able to get more slots open for juniors to play more rugby. I think it's necessary.
So this builds on to the next question, which is New Zealand and England have very strict eligibility rules, but New Zealand and
Yes,
England recently have found an outflux of players going to play in France and Japan
yes,
overseas, which makes their star players ineligible to play for the
yes.
national team. Do you think that New Zealand and England should open up their eligibility rules, or do you think, how do you think that would go
Mm.
down?
I think it certainly limits them, yeah. When you're not able to choose the best if they're just because they're playing abroad. But New Zealand has their own way of doing it, you know. So you cannot really, I cannot comment on New Zealand tradition because it's a successful tradition. So if they feel like, if Scott feels like it should be staying like that, it's going to stay like that. And I think they will be successful. They have enough quality in New Zealand to be able to play. But I think it's definitely a limiting factor when you're looking at having that. And you can go back to our South African history when we were not able to choose from our players from overseas, we were not performing as well.
There was actually an article released about Scott Robertson calling for the eligibility law to be dropped so that he could be selecting players from overseas. Because you've got World Rugby Player of the Year Ardie Savea that is now playing
Yes, who's in
overseas.
Japan? Yeah, I think it's if I was in his position, I would do the same because I just know that it strengthens my selections, of course.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And we've covered the South Africans playing overseas. Who do you think are the sort of go to the hot stars, the hot steppers over the next 4 years in world rugby? If you had to pick your top three players to keep an eye on over the next season.
Oof. Hamish, I don't watch enough 15-man rugby right now, to be honest, because of my coaching. I cannot say that I watch a lot of South African rugby, and I would be able to tell you the South Africans that I think are the ones to look out for in the next, let's say, season. And also the development maybe of the Springboks, who I think would be the key guys to invest in, obviously. But in terms of world rugby, I cannot say really.
And then for South Africa, if you just had to keep it there.
So if I have to keep it in South Africa, Ivan Rust, the number 8 of the Stormers. I think is a player to watch out for in filling in the role of Dwayne, who's out of the system now. I think he's a key player for the Stormers, and also can be a key development prospect for the Springboks. And then I have to obviously look at what is the 15, the wing, long tall wing from the Bulls, the young one. Ugh, I forgot his name now. But the two wings from the Bulls, for the outside backs from the Bulls, the youngsters, I think are also two. Arense, and the other one is also good prospects to be looking at. And then yeah, I think that is the three that I would be keeping an eye on the next season.
Well, I'll be sure to keep an eye on those guys for sure. I know you've had a wealth of experience having played international rugby all over the world, and you mentioned earlier you like the prospect of playing rugby in various different countries. And I think this brings me
Yes,
nicely on to sort of what I've been up to over the last few months, playing rugby in
yes,
China and trying to build the scene over in China. And I actually spent 2 months there making a documentary, traveling from Beijing all the way down to Hong Kong, playing rugby in
yes.
China. Have you ever thought about playing rugby in China yourself, Freddie?
Probably I would have thought about it when I was still playing. Right now, I would love to be in the development side of it, maybe go coach in China and look at the market. But I think it's an interesting prospect, Hamish. We need to know what it's like in those different markets. What are the strengths of the markets? What are the club allowed to offer? What is the visa processes and those type of things? I think if we can educate our players and of the opportunities that are out there, I think it's necessary, especially for the South African markets, because we have too much talent to all play in South Africa. So it's a no-brainer to be looking at various markets around the world. And I think a lot of South African players would definitely consider the prospect of playing, of course.
You know, when I was in China, so I was playing with two teams. I was playing for the Beijing Ducks up in the north, and then when I traveled
Mm-hmm.
down south, I played for the Shenzhen Pirates, which is a team that is from mainland China in the south, but then they play a lot of their matches in the Hong Kong League. And whilst I was over
Yes,
there, in the Shenzhen Pirates, I'd say maybe 30 or 40% of the squad was from South Africa. And
yeah,
the reason with that being is that so I help with running so if anyone that wants to play rugby in China and earn a living, they can do so if they just send me a message or anything. And we'll help place you, find a job
awesome.
teaching English, help with the visa process, and help with accommodation. And then you also get to play rugby. So essentially, for even if you wanted to do it for 1 year or 2 years, you could have a year abroad
Yes,
teaching English, making money, and playing rugby. Obviously, there's
yes,
different rules that apply. So it's only open to sort of people that hold British, Irish, South African, Canadian, America, USA, New Zealand, and Australian passports because you're teaching English over there. But
yes,
yeah, I think it's a great way for players to one because the players actually host sort of clinics, rugby clinics in the schools. So you've got a
yes,
lot of the little Chinese kids that are learning English. They're also learning rugby at the same time, which is
yes.
really nice. And
I think it's an awesome way.
it's surprisingly a very good caliber of rugby. I would say that the level is similar to sort of semi-pro almost, especially down in the
Yes,
south towards Hong Kong because Hong Kong itself has got eight men's leagues and six women's leagues. So the rugby there
yes.
is actually very competitive. And Hong
How
Kong
many
international
clubs do you think of?
clubs in China in total, I believe there's about 40, but I'd need to fact check that one. The problem with
Yes,
China is because it's such a big country, you have each city has their team and they've got locals that are playing and running the games and a few expats. And for them to travel to the next closest city is probably a couple hundred miles. So
Yes.
it takes a long time, and there's a lot of logistical issues because China's such a big country. So it's hard to get
Yes.
regular fixtures. But in the north, there's the Beijing League, which is very competitive. I think there's about 5 or 6 teams in there, and they've got a few women's teams as well. And then in the south, you've got there's another pocket of rugby with Hong Kong and also the South China League, which has got Shenzhen, the Guangzhou Rams, and I think the Bulldog Dragons. And then over in
Yes.
Shanghai, they've got another league over there as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get over to Shanghai, so I can't comment too much on that. But I did see Shenzhen, and we saw the women's team that's very competitive as well. And yeah, it was a good 2 months to get immersed into the Chinese culture, which is completely different to anything that I've seen before in my
Yes.
lifetime. And I've done a lot of traveling over the years, and China was probably the biggest sort of culture shock. I think the main thing was that when you go over there and you don't have any sort of information, there's a firewall, so you can around Google Maps, Google Gmail, Facebook, Twitter,
Yes.
all blocked by the servers in China. They have their own sort of social medias and everything.
Network, yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh, Hamish, your mic is a bit soft now.
I think it's because it's very hot over here, so it might be. I'm currently in Thailand, so the temperatures are a lot
Okay.
higher, so maybe the microphone's a bit off.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of a summary of sort of how China was. We're releasing a 4-part documentary in the next
Yes.
by March. So in the documentary, we're going to go into more detail about the ins and outs of what it's like, and some of the highlights include we did a tour of the largest clothing manufacturers for rugby clothing over in China, which is very cool
Yes.
because obviously China's known for its
Nice.
factories and everything. And we had the chance
Yes.
to get a private tour, and we got invited to a private match between Germany and Hong Kong international team, which was cool to watch
Okay.
and interview some of the players after the match. And then some other
And
highlights.
how was the quality?
The quality was very physical in that international match. You have to bear in
Yes.
mind, Hong Kong is the second best team in all of Asia internationally, and
Yes.
they've got some very physical big lads in the team, and they're ranked about 24th in the world right now. So the next World Cup, given the expansion, they're likely to go to the next World Cup in Australia 2027. So Hong Kong rugby over the next, let's say, 4 to 10 years is going to blow up quite massively because they've got also the Hong Kong Sevens every year. So they've got a good Sevens team.
Yes.
And the Hong Kong Sevens itself is a massive event, probably one of the biggest events in all of Asia for rugby. So, well, I
Yes.
think it is the biggest, if not the Singapore
Yeah,
Sevens.
I think it is the biggest.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that over in April from 5th to the 7th of
Yes.
April. And yeah, that's some exciting times ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be interesting to see if we can make that trip happen.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, any questions you had at all about
We
rugby in
had the
China?
Yeah, no, I think we will. I'm looking forward to seeing that documentary of yours, and then I will have my questions from there. I think obviously we already discussed the opportunities of development coaching on that side. I think it's an awesome thing that I would also be very interested to do. And yeah, just to see and be immersed in the market and see and experience the market. So I think it's definitely something I would consider when I was still a rugby player looking for opportunities. And it's definitely something I'm going to tell the guys in South Africa about. I think it's also something we can consider for maybe adding to because I would like us to have playing opportunities for the guys that win in South Africa, because I know some of them, I would something like that would be something they would be interested in doing. So we can maybe look at opportunities like that, Hamish.
I mean, definitely the next sort of rugby in Asia. There's lots of rugby in Asia, and people don't realize that, and it's because it's not been covered. So
Yes,
my goal over the next 2 years is to cover all of the rugby in Asia, from Afghanistan to Uzbekistan, all the way to China and Singapore and Fiji. Well, not Fiji. I meant to say
yes,
Bali, Indonesia. And
yes,
I'm currently in Thailand doing a Muay Thai boxing camp for 30 days,
yes.
followed by followed by a fight. And this is really to do sort of a crossover of the Muay Thai boxing with the rugby. And
Okay.
after that, I'll be traveling through Southeast Asia, hopping between each country, finding inspiring rugby stories and that all exist, and then sharing those with the rest of the world.
Now I'm looking forward. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you get up to, Hamish. I think it's an awesome initiative that you're running. And yeah, I think we need to tell the globalization of our game is happening so rapidly, and we need to showcase these different markets. And because it also like that's what the UFC has done really well. It's been able to go all over the world and get play, fighters from those different parts of the world. And I think it's something that we can definitely be better at in rugby. And 1 versus 1 is a tool that we can utilize.
Yeah, and social media in general now makes the opportunities to connect with people all over the world sort of endless. So
Yes,
there'll be hidden talent pools. Imagine you've got like a big Mongolian wrestler that suddenly picks up rugby all of a sudden, and
yes.
now he's like the beast in 1 versus 1. That'd be sick.
Yes, it would be interesting to see. I think the future of rugby is bright, and just interested and excited to be part of the journey in the next coming years.
Well, I think that's a good place and a good place to end on a high note. Freddie, it's been a pleasure, and
Yes,
I'm sure we'll be doing plenty of these episodes in the upcoming weeks and months ahead, just to keep an eye on the upcoming prospects of 1 versus 1 and to
yes.
keep the audience updated on everything going on in Asia. So thank you, Freddie, for your time. Any final words?
No, thank you, Hamish, for the opportunity. Thank you for our followers and the guys that support us. Obviously, it's always the support that they show always means a lot, and having the opportunity to tell the stories that we are trying to tell also means a lot, and sharing the passion for the game. I think is something that I can see in you, and that I'm inspired to tell a bit more of the stories that are in our markets here in South Africa. And then yeah, for our followers and the audience, follow our pages to stay up to date with what we are doing, and we will continue telling the stories.
I Great words to end on, Freddie. And I just want to echo Freddie's words there and say extremely grateful for all of the audience that makes this all happen. Which is why
Yes,
our primary goal is to grow rugby and make it as accessible and possible and inspiring for you to fall in love with the game the way that we fell in love with the game, and give you the
yeah,
opportunities to then make that happen. So whether that's watching a great documentary about rugby in China, or whether that's competing at your 1 versus 1, or whether you need help developing as a player, we want to provide all of
yes,
necessary things so that you can have the full rugby experience and live a great life that you wish that you could have had when you were 5 years old, thinking, oh, I wish I could be a rugby player, or I could wish I could be involved in some sort of way. And I hope this sort of
yeah,
inspires you to sort of pick up a rugby ball, travel the world, connect with friends all over the world, and just create a good life
yeah,
for themselves. I think everyone deserves that. And I think rugby is definitely a sport that brings people together. And I think that's really the
yeah,
motivating factor of why we love this sport and why we want to keep on growing this sport. And that's at the root and the base of everything that we're doing. So, Freddie, again, thank you very much. And
thank
Champagners,
you, Hamish.
you've been a beauty. If anyone wants to play rugby in China, drop me a message. There's also a link in my bio. And if anyone wants to sign up for 1 versus 1, you know where to go. And finally, that's all for now. Be sure to check out the documentary coming out in March. Thank you.